Hello and welcome to this short story series, A Day in the Life of Julian of Norwich. It's narrated by myself, Isisi Allthings, and I'm an author, a holistic mentor and a Reiki healer living in Norwich, England. It's April 2020 and we're all in the middle of COVID-19, a coronavirus pandemic, and we're all in lockdown, not only here, but around the whole world. It's a truly unique crisis, and it's never been known to anyone since the Spanish flu around the time of the First World War. In these unwilling times of self-isolation and quarantine during this emergency, I'd like to tell you a story that I feel is very fitting for us at this time. It might give you pause for thought about how to deal with self-isolation from someone who became an expert at it for approximately 50 years. This video series is called A Day in the Life of Julian of Norwich, and it's about a very special lady who lived in medieval times in the 14th century. Julian was a Catholic anchorite. I wasn't aware of what an anchorite was until I lived right near to her shrine and went to visit one day. There I found a library attached to the church where she had lived, and it was full of books, many of which are the various translations of her esteemed original work, Divine Revelations of Love. From an educated background, she was even able to read and write in Hebrew. In her book, she describes how she fell gravely ill at the age of 30, possibly from the Black Death or bubonic plague. It was a far more ravaging plague than coronavirus. This had already swept Norwich for 2 years in 1349. And she survived that time when she was about 7 years old. So this time around, as an adult, Julian's condition deteriorated, and upon her deathbed, whilst gazing at her Lord Jesus Christ, in her delirious state, she had a series of shewings or visions of where he was talking to her, and she observed the passions of Christ. Luckily, she survived, but this near-death experience changed her completely. And she dedicated her life to full-time service to God by renouncing her worldly goods and getting the full blessing of the bishop to be interred in a cell on the side of the church. As was typical of an anchor or an anchorite, the door was sealed by the bishop and a vow was taken to remain in this room for the rest of her life. Shocking as it may seem that she willingly chose this self-isolation, there were many benefits to this life in medieval times, which we will see as I narrate her story as if I were Julian herself. Please begin with part 1, Morning Rituals, for a peek into how her day may have begun.